Call the meeting to order. We start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank everyone for being here, and we will start with the town manager's report.
Good evening, everyone. Just a reminder, town meeting is on June 10th at 7 o'clock in the evening upstairs in the Opera House, and elections are on June 11th from 7 in the morning to 8 at night, right here in the council room. We certainly would like to have all the voters try to attend. And the selectmen's meeting on that night, on June 11th, will be upstairs in the Opera House. A couple congratulations. Jeff Hewitt this morning received the Wellness Employee of the Year Award. So congratulations, Jeff. And then pretty impressive, congratulations to Randy Gray. The end of last month, he received the 2019 Distinguished Service Award at the MRRA Annual Conference. So that was very good news as well. Let me see. So Robert Washburn of the Heritage Council, he brought in a letter that he received from Susan Collins, and I just wanted to read that to you. It says, "Dear friends, thank you for your kind invitation to join you in celebrating the 6th annual Abner Coburn Day. Governor Abner Coburn was an integral part of the heritage of Skowhegan and the state of Maine. His legacy includes the establishment of lasting institutions such as the Skowhegan Free Public Library, the Somerset County Courthouse, and Oak Grove Coburn Mansion. I commend the Skowhegan Heritage Council for its wonderful annual tribute to Governor Coburn, ensuring that future generations know of his generous accomplishments. Thank you and happy Abner Coburn Day. Sincerely, Susan Collins." So I know he wants that back, but he did want me to share that with everyone because he personally sent her an invitation. Also, the offices will be closed on May 27th for Memorial Day. Just to let you know, this weekend, Bradley School Dance is holding their recitals, May 17th and 18th at 7 p.m. in the Opera House. And the annual 10 plus mile yard sale is May 18th and May 19th. So please follow the no parking signs. And last but not least, the Memorial Day Parade is on the 27th, starting at 10 a.m. That starts at the intersection of Dyer Street and Madison Avenue and ends right here at Veterans Memorial on Water Street. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any items for the public? Beth?
My question's for Randy. Randy, the old Nazarene Church on North Avenue, is that a homeless shelter or a church?
I don't know. It's not a shelter. They do have, in the back of that, which has been inspected and approved, is it 2 units, I think, isn't it, Jason? Yes. 2 units in the back there that people can stay in, so, which has been fire inspected and the wood truck code.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Jason?
Just want to expand on the Memorial Day Parade. So we released this morning, Derek DeFelice, who is the owner of, was Angelo's Pizzeria, now renamed to Heroes House Pizza, is going to be this year's Grand Marshal. So there's a brief bio attached to that. So hopefully everybody comes up to the parade. We're also looking for a lot more people that want to be a part of that. So just want to push that on.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nothing, we'll move on to selectmen's items. Betty?
Can you do that for me? Thank you. I just first of all wanted to say that we have some awesome school teachers in our school district. A bunch of 4th graders that I really enjoyed working with. And also recently in the newspaper, The Skowhegan schools are receiving SAD 54 after-school programs, get a grant, $1.3 million, and there was a really good picture of a couple of the teachers, and I've seen a few that have come down to the State House too, and we really have some good teachers that we should be proud of. And we also have some good department heads, and one of them was recently in the newspaper, and if Denise would like to come up. And because she got to be in the paper, and because she's been an employee with the town of Skowhegan for 30 years, we've given her this State of Maine remembrance here, and it says, "Be it known to all that we, the members of the Senate and the House of Representatives, join in recognizing Denise LeBlanc of Skowhegan, Director of the Town of Skowhegan Parks and Recreation Department, for her 30 years of public service. Director LeBlanc has overseen the successful growth of the department during her tenure, and we extend our congratulations and best wishes, and be it ordered that this official expression of sentiment be sent forthwith on behalf of the 129th Legislature and the people of the state of Maine." Congratulations. That's it, I'm done. I'm sure there's other things I'm like, oh, I forgot, but that's okay.
So good.
Okay, thank you.
Roger?
I'm all set, thanks.
Jim?
All set.
Is Greg here? No. Greg, pay attention. No. My question is, I mean, where are we with the street sweeper? I haven't really seen our new sweeper out much. What's...
No, we're having some mechanical issues with it, and they're coming up tomorrow, the representative from the company, and we're gonna go through it and figure out what we're gonna do.
Okay. Department and committee reports. Yes, sir. Your moment to shine. Jeff?
Just a couple things, just to update the board. We will be looking at coming back to the selectmen in a future meeting on a tip request to match for the charging grant that we're looking for with Efficiency Maine. That, as I say, has to be in July 1st, I believe it is. We're still working on putting a application of that together. Matter of fact, we'll be tomorrow with Gary from Katie Todd, kind of go over some of that stuff. But that will go to the TIP committee first before it can come to you. But we are working on that, just a kind of a heads up that that's potentially going to be coming. The other thing, just to update you, Siemens has been working hard in this building. They've run most of the pipes for the this level for the new ventilating, the heating and cooling portion that they're installing. We've had some hiccups, but they've done a pretty good job. We've uncovered some issues. But again, I think we're moving along fairly fast that way, but just wanted to kind of keep you abreast. They're working hard here and also started working at the community center. And we should be pollution control in highway in the next few days. So I think this will take us pretty much up until September, October to be totally finalized on everything. So that's it.
Thank you. Greg? All right. Chief?
I'm all set, thanks.
Denise?
Just to give you an update on the ball field complex Route 2 project, Ranger got the bid a month ago. Where we stand right now is we're working with we've had some meetings with the contractors and working with utilities right now to get the poles and all that set before we move any further with the bypass lane, which which will be from Kai's Motel and connect onto the high school bypass lane. So I'll give you an update as we move forward, basically just working with utilities, get the telephone poles that need to be removed in right away. And that's where we are right now. So no dates set yet, but that's where we are, and I'll keep you an update as we move forward.
Thank you. Trish?
I'm all set, thank you.
Gail?
Just wanted to report that tomorrow we will be starting absentee ballots for the municipal election. I was going to start them today, but we were like down 2 people up front, so I was out there all day. And I didn't get to do my prep work, so we could start today. So we will start tomorrow, and we will not have the school ballots until after the district vote. So if anybody really wants to absentee vote, it would be best to wait until we do get the school ballots, which will be probably either Tuesday or Wednesday, of next week. And that's it, thank you.
Randy?
All set, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
That was everybody. And now we will move on to, we have a couple of presentations, and the first one is going to be from Brent Colby.
Thank you. I'll be just as brief. Almost. Sums it up.
We like simple.
Thank you. I've been on the circuit, I'm making the rounds to all of the different municipalities. The district budget meeting is next Monday night, the 20th, at the high school, in the cafeteria, and the gym, at 7 o'clock. And the budget that you're going to be presented with, or I've already been presented with, is what's in the yellow book I handed out to you. Basically, the budget is $36.7 million. That's up just a little over $1 million over this year, 2.99%. The local share of that is $14.2 million, which, if you look at the very bottom of that blue sheet, tells you that that's $31,683 more than this year. So the net effect on taxpayers is almost $32,000. Skowhegan, because of the way you folks assess based on your value, all the towns are, Skowhegan is going to pay $211,557 less than they did this year. So if you want to look at a little bit of the historic side of that, that's last year you were down as well. So it's 2 years in a row. And out of the last 6 years, you've been down 4 years out of the last 6. And if you want to look at the last 16 years, you're down over $2 million from where you were 16 years ago on the local numbers. And it's almost always driven by the decreased value of the community. And so there was also a change in how that number is derived in the last legislature at the last minute. It used to be the average that maybe 3 state valuations, and that's how we determine the value. They changed it at the last minute last year to say it's the average of the most recent 3 or the most recent one, whichever's lower. That's positively affected Skowhegan, because your most recent one was lower than your average. So that's for this last year, that gave you a positive effect. And we'll also do the same thing for next year. You'll have, I already know, unless the legislature changes it.
No, I don't think we're going to.
You will see your share will decrease a little bit next year as well, by about 0.5%. This year it's down by 1.63%, so that's a substantial shift. So state aid is $980,000. A large chunk of that was targeted towards special ed costs. Special ed costs across the state and all schools are rising. I was just at a meeting this morning, the superintendent for the Rockland area. His special ed costs have risen by $1.5 million in 1 year. They're struggling to how to grapple with that. We're not that boat. So you've got more money, but a lot of it was targeted for special ed. That's what the interest increase is. The state aid is $20,753,000. And the way that works is if we get $20 million from the state, as long as we raise at least the minimum local share, which is about $13 million. We're asking the town for a little bit more than that, but the towns, excuse me. But it's good growth. If you don't raise the local share, you don't get the state share. The Burbank has 38%, so for every dollar we raise locally, we get, for every $38 we raise locally, we get $62 from the state. So it's not a bad trade, if you think about the return on investment. The budget's up largely because of some increased costs around special ed, as well as we gave the average employee got 2.77% raise. With many employees that we have, that adds up to several $100,000, obviously. Our health insurance rates came in at a 0 increase. Now, last year was over 7, so that was just huge for us, because our premiums are over $6 million a year. So any 1% of that can, obviously, is 600 grand, 60 grand. So it's so 0 increase was just huge for us. Utilities are up a little bit. Some of our contract services, as you know, the state shifted main state retirement costs. We had a big chunk to the locals a number of years ago. That continues to rise, so that's a hit on the local taxpayer. We tried to offset some of that with whether it was an offset by debt service. We're paying down the debt on the middle school and the mill stream. We made some modest reductions in supplies and equipment and some computer requests that helped. And we did add some ed techs, a part-time nurse, and one and a fractional special ed teacher. So really the end of the net of this is that we were up about $1 million, we received almost $1 million in state aid. The things that were over that we tried to cut, to reduce, to compensate for, and end up with what I believe is a very reasonable request for the citizens. And so what will happen process-wise is that through Monday night we meet in the gym for the district budget meeting. There'll be the 18 articles, and they're in your yellow packets on pages 6 through 9 of the 18 articles. We'll vote each for one of those. And the board recommended amounts which reflect this $36.7 million budget. And we'll vote those, and we will come up with a budget. Somebody's asked me if we vote the budget down, this budget we really can, because you have to vote on the 18 articles, so there'll be a number associated with each of those articles. So we'll end up with, and that will be the budget. And that's the budget that goes to people on the 11th, the referendum. And the referendum is simply yes or no. Do you approve of what happened on the 20th? And if you don't, yes if you do, and no if you don't. If the budget were to fail on the 11th, then we start over. It just goes back around. We start with a new budget, a new district budget meeting, a new referendum. That just keeps going around and around until we end up with a budget that is approved in referendum. So there also has been some confusion about what happens if the budget were to fail and we went past July, end of June. It doesn't go back to this year's budget. We will operate off of whatever was approved at the district budget meeting. That's the last approved budget. So there's been some questions about if we don't have an approved budget by the 1st of July, what do we do? Well, we operate off what was approved on the 20th, or whatever the last district budget meeting was. So, questions? We have to try to answer. I think it's a reasonable request. We worked really hard over the years to try to, as you know, to reinvest local state aid to get into decreasing taxes if we can to meet our obligations. That's what I think we've done here.
And Brent, you said the 20th at 7?
20th at 7 in the gym. All residents, all 6 towns, clerks will be there, or somebody from the clerk's office will be there to check people off to vote. I encourage you to come, support your schools, because really what comes out of that meeting is what's going to provide services for your children.
Guess we're all set?
Good, I'm good.
See what a good job you did.
Well, I don't know about that.
Thank you for your time. And now we'll hear from Christina Cannon, who will present the Main Street Quarterly Report.
Hello, everyone. I know there are a number of people that are new in the room, so just to let you all know, Main Street typically presents these quarterly reports, just to let you all know what we're up to. And our mission is we're working to revitalize Skowhegan. So this is a report for January through March 2019. So we typically do a number of business support initiatives. So we send emails, providing promotion for our businesses, that sort of thing. We also draft business profiles. January, we did a profile on Whittemore's Real Estate, a business that's celebrating 50 years, which is great. February, Franklin Savings Bank, and March, Boynton's Greenhouses. Those were our profiles this quarter. Shop Skowhegan, actually, I talk about this every time I come because I'm hoping to get more businesses and more people involved. So this is a program that is open and free to all of our businesses to participate. Basically, we'll come and we'll provide slips of paper, and any customer that makes a purchase, you fill out your information, you drop it in the bucket, and then we do drawings monthly at various businesses for a $25 gift card, just to encourage people to shop locally. So we're also working in tandem with the town and on behalf of the Run-of-River Committee to help raise funding for the Run-of-River Whitewater Recreation Area. And actually some of the work that we're doing is also getting some of the final data gathered in the river. So that we're hoping that was going to be done this week, but the river being high, unfortunately has pushed that back. We're hoping next week that our data firm will be able to get into the river and gather that final data. So that is weather pending, of course. And then we have about $300,000 pending in grants at the moment, and that you'll notice I had reported 375. So actually that means we've got about 351 pending because we found out we received $24,000 on Thursday from the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund. So that was really great news. They voted to fund that grant, so that will help go towards permitting costs. So another grant down, which means that we raised about $148,000 for Run-of-River through grant funding in the last 10 months or so. So really awesome and exciting. We are working with the United Way of Maine and their Rising Leaders Group to put together a river cleanup and support paddle on June 21st, which is a Friday in June. And so we actually have reserved a dumpster that'll go down at the boat landing, and so we're going to get people in the river and on the trails doing cleanup to help get rid of some of the debris and the trash that accumulated over the winter. And then we're all going to get in the river and paddle either down to the beach or down to the boat landing, and then celebrate afterwards with a networking event. So that should be great to get some folks from perhaps out of town up here to check out our river. So, in another initiative that's part of this new theme, which I think I talked about in my last report, community transformation through outdoor recreation. So we were very lucky to receive $32,000 in funding from the AmeriCorps program. So this is going to fund 3 AmeriCorps members to come to Skowhegan and work for the next 3 years to put together free outdoor recreation programming for our community members. So that means we're actually getting ready to officially enroll 3 members in the next 2 weeks. One of them is from Skowhegan, Alana Wakeham, and we're excited. She just graduated from UMO and she's going to be joining our team. We have 2 others who will be joining us. One of them from Brooklyn, New York. His name is Travis, and he's traveling up next week, and he'll be starting them. And then we have a girl named Monica, who's traveling from Ohio, and she'll be joining us next week as well. So they're going to be living in Skowhegan. We reserved housing for them, and putting on this programming 3 days a week at a minimum, free for our community members. So we're really excited about that. So outdoor recreation programming. So this is like mountain biking trainings, nature walks. So it runs the gamut from low impact activities for people that may not be familiar with outdoor recreation opportunities around town to high impact whitewater paddling trainings that we're going to be working with the Outdoor Sport Institute to implement. So there's going to be a lot of great opportunities for our local community members to get outside and get active on our trails, in our river, and that's really exciting. We've got 3 people, and we're scrambling to figure out where to put them in the office right now, but really exciting stuff. So. And I should also mention that we found out last week that we received a $1,500 grant from STAPI to help us with that program. So we've got a couple of grants that we're waiting to hear back on as well. But regardless of grant funding, we will continue forward with free outdoor recreation programming, and that's exciting stuff. Main Street has about $20,000 sitting in a trail fund grant pot of money that we are planning to use this summer in partnership with the Somerset Trails Collaborative and Somerset Woods trustees, and our whole trail group that we've been working. Jeff's a part of that as well, and Jason Gain from the chamber. And so we're going to be using that money to help put a single-track mountain bike trail through the Philbrook trails, as well as develop some of the town-owned rail trail right there. So making it more accessible and better to get into those trails up in the Philbrook woods. From an event perspective, we hosted Somerset Snowfest back in February, and so it's just kind of funny to be talking about it in May, but in the nature of a quarterly report, we had a really successful skijoring event that we hosted at Eaton Mountain, and we had an estimated about 400 people that came from all over the state of Maine, as well as Rhode Island and Connecticut and a number of other places around New England to check out this new cool activity. It was the first of its kind in Maine, equestrian skijoring, and we're excited to host it at the fairgrounds next year. It was just, we had people parking out on Route 2 because it was so well attended, so we expect it to grow in coming years. And there were some concerns about safety for the horses, and everything went off great. We had insurance, of course, and we had put together a number of regulations and stipulations in order for participants to actually participate, and things went off great, and we're really pleased with how that all worked out. Bill Green came and actually filmed a segment on skijoring, and that helped promote Skowhegan and the event. More than 100 people enjoyed free dog sled rides in Coburn Park on Sunday during the event. And then a number of other activities took place throughout the weekend, including, of course, tubing at Eaton Mountain and skating at the rec center. And then Lake George did a bunch of stuff out at their place. This is a collaborative event, of course, with Lake George. So I'm really excited to bring you Snowfest next year. It will actually be in the end of February. Hopefully it'll be a little bit warmer than the day we had, which was about 5 degrees. Kennebec on Fire is another project that we're working on that we received a grant from the Maine Arts Commission for. And we're working in collaboration with the West Somerset Arts Council on this project. So we, with grant funding, have hired Deergo Engineering to help us look at the base of the sculptures that will go in the river. And so the base is going to hold the fire brazier and the metal sculpture that will be then lighting on fire with wood as part of the whole cool artistic sculpture, river sculpture grouping, I guess, is the best way to put it. The West Somerset Arts Council just learned this morning that they received $10,000 from the Maine Community Foundation to help this project, because we actually have a one-to-one match for this grant from the Maine Arts Commission. So the grant, and the majority of the grant money from the Maine Arts Commission will be going to artist commissions. So that means each sculpture, we're going to be commissioning artists to create these sculptures, and that'll be $10,000 that we're paying artists to create them. So, and we're planning on giving local artists preference to local artists, I guess is the official way of saying it. So, we're planning for a new event in collaboration with the Arts Council and the Maine Grain Alliance on June 15th. And so this will be an experiential agricultural tour. We rented a steer bus, and we're selling tickets to this for 45 people to get on the bus and go out and experience agricultural opportunities in our area. So they'll be going to Tessier's Farm to learn how to make butter. They're going to be stopping at the Maine Grain Alliance Heritage Grains plot, and they're going to be grinding some grain, and a couple of other stops along the way. And then there's going to be a festival downtown that's going to be celebrating agriculture in our community. We submitted about a month and a half ago to Commissioner Camuso at the Maine Inland Fisheries and Wildlife a proposal to host the Moose Festival for the next 5 years. This was a recommendation by one of our committee members, and I'm really excited to hear about that in June. So fingers crossed that they will give us this opportunity, which has never been done before, but perhaps it will. We'll be successful, hopefully. We hosted Maple Madness and Maple Festival in March. And Maple Madness was a basketball tournament, which was a new part of that event, and we're looking to grow that next year and perhaps crown Maple Madness champion. And Daryl's idea is to get all the maple syrup producing regions in the Northeast to participate in this basketball tournament. So we'll see how that goes, but kind of neat to bring people to Skowhegan for basketball. We have printed new Skowhegan visitors guides. We printed 6,000 of them, and those will be rolled out very soon. They're sitting in boxes at the office, just delivered last week. So really beautiful. We updated the past edition with new information and new photos, and we're really excited to get that out, and that is a collaboration with the chamber. So those will be going out to visitor centers on I-95 as well. So, and of course, you all know we set a Guinness World Record for the most people moose calling simultaneously, so that was a highlight from the quarter. Main Street Skowhegan is an organization that is annually assessed by the Maine Downtown Center, and we have to get nationally accredited by the National Main Street Organization in order to call ourselves a Main Street community. And we were successful in our assessment and our accreditation for the 14th year in a row, and we are one of Maine's 10 nationally accredited Main Street communities. We also won an award, voted the #1 community service organization in the region for the Morning Sentinel Kennebec Journal Best of Best Award, so that was neat. We accepted our award in February. In collaboration with the Maine Grains, we hosted legislators, 2 busloads of them on January 11th, and I gave a tour of downtown Skowhegan. Christine was there as well, and just showed people our awesome town. So that was a great activity for the dead of winter. We actually rode around on the bus instead of walking because it was so cold, but people got to hear about plans for community transformation through outdoor recreation. And then in March, I was invited to speak at the Franklin Savings Bank annual meeting, and again, I was able to share plans for the future of Skowhegan and community transformation through outdoor recreation, which I've been saying a lot of, but is super important. So.
That's all you got? Anything further? Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Now we're going to move on to several public hearings. We are going to open a public hearing to discuss the amended parades and processions ordinance. And I guess I would ask anybody that chooses to speak that you obviously speak loud, state your name, and then we'll go from there.
Use the mic.
Use the mic, unless you're loud, but no, use the mic so we can get it.
Okay, so you have the amended parades and processions ordinance that we had previously discussed. The change to parades and processions is to make the process more streamlined when necessary, so that I can approve with selectmen permission if we need an approval for timing reasons, when we don't have an opportunity to wait for our selectmen's meeting. So this allows us the ability to do that. If anyone has any questions about that? Pretty simple, straightforward change.
Jason?
And I think, I referenced what you guys said a while ago when we had talked about this. Basically, it's for as an emergency, not assuming that this is gonna be everybody coming last minute, so. That's a big stressor, it's not in here, but I know that's a big stress.
Right, it shouldn't be a regular occasion, especially if it's an event that's held annually. Right.
Together early.
Exactly. So, thank you, Jason.
Anything further? Seeing none, we will close that public hearing. Now we'll open a public hearing to discuss the amended special amusement ordinance.
Did you want to give a brief overview of that for us, Joel, please?
Sure.
The changes? Yes, please.
The major substantive changes to the special amusement ordinance were, first off, a change just to the time for when restaurants and bars and things can operate. New Year's Eve festivities now can go till 1 o'clock, that's changed from 12:30. And, yeah, music, entertainment and dancing on January 1st shall also end no later than 2 o'clock. That's from 1:30. The other changes were substantive, let me see. Section 11, subsection A, regarding exotic dancing and dancers having to be within a designated area that is clearly defined and separated from any patrons. Also, section E, which establishes that any establishments that have fewer than 6 performances of exotic dancing have to provide a separate dressing area for use of dancers only. Any premises, for section G, any premises allowing for exotic dancers now have to be located at least 750 feet from any church, public or private school, parks and playgrounds, etc. I think that was the extent of the major changes for the special amusement ordinances. Oh, there's a couple of changes just to the definitions to tighten those up. Defining dancer, licensee and promotion in terms of promoting any kind of events.
And then we also changed the distance.
Yes, that was the distance from any kind of exotic dancing. It used to be 300, and it was increased to 750. I think the planning board thought that this would be in line with several of the other ordinances where you have now about 750 feet, so that was a thinking just to keep it uniform. One of the major points there is that we changed the wording of entertainment to exotic dancing, because entertainment in a sense would cover basic musical performances, which are obviously in a different category from exotic dancing. So it was only exotic dancing that would be changed for those distances, not just entertainment, which obviously a place wants to put on just some music, it's a different kind of consideration than exotic dancing.
Anybody on the board have anything? I don't. Jeff?
Joel, just a question. Excuse me. That's 750 feet from any school, library, church. Is that for all entertainment?
No, specifically we changed it from entertainment to just specifically exotic dancing. So
Okay, because this one doesn't list that. This one just says any licensed premises allowing entertainment shall be located at least 750 feet from any school, library, church, park, or playground.
Okay, the one that I am reading off is.
Oh, this is the one from the last.
Is specifically entertainment cost.
Well, that's what I thought, and that's what I wasn't seeing here.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking the question.
Yeah.
Right, that's, the copy I have doesn't have that stipulation in it.
But I mean, I can only assume that, this, we discussed this at the previous meeting and then we went away and made subsequent changes again, so it might be a question of the latest update being included.
We're going to put this one on hold for a moment, so hold your thought.
I was going to say, we're missing some words.
We're going to put this one on hold, and we're going to move on to the next one, so, because she's going to get some other information. So we are going to
Close that one open.
close that one for now. So we're going to open up the public hearing to discuss the obscenity and adult entertainment ordinance.
Is that again?
Sure.
Hopefully this is the same version that I'm referring to, everyone else's. Obscenity and adult entertainment are substantive changes. Similarly, we changed section 4.1A. We changed the distances where establishment of any adult entertainment business would be increased from 500 to 750. And then just tightened up some of the language about which uses that 750 applied from, including athletic fields and recreational facilities that are open to the public where children are the primary users. Section 5.1, subsection D was erased, which related to the possession of obscene devices. This was an arbitrary 6 devices or 6 articles of obscene material, which the planning board decided to remove, seeing as it seems to be kind of arbitrary, like on one side or the other of 6, it seemed to make no difference. And finally, the definition of obscene device was amended to now read, an obscene device means any three-dimensional object or item that is classified as obscene as defined in this ordinance. Again, for reasons where the definition of obscene has to be stated in this ordinance, but is also basically under interpretation. So to define an obscene device, you have to refer to the definition of obscene, which is almost an arguable point, but that's just the way that it has to be written based off Supreme Court ruling from many years ago now. The only other couple of things, a couple of changes to the definitions, just to change the specific definition of specific anatomical areas and specific sexual activities on the last page of the definition section. Is everyone seeing those same changes? No, you don't have any conflict with those?
No.
Good. I think that's it for the obscenity and adult entertainment.
Anybody on the board have any questions?
No.
Anybody out there have anything? Seeing none, we will close that public hearing. And now we'll open a public hearing to discuss the amended Budget and Finance Committee bylaws.
The change on this one was just so that we use the number of filled positions for a quorum. Is that not correct?
Correct. And we should put the changes in it.
And
Yeah. You want to explain that one? It was the quorum.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that.
You want to explain that one?
I certainly will. So on the Budget and Finance Committee bylaws, the bylaws, on our last amendment, we changed them that the membership number would be 11 and that quorum would be 6. We've run into issues where we haven't had full membership. So even if we have 8 members, we still have to have 6 in order to meet quorum. So, in order to administratively still function, we've decided that would be best to change the quorum to be 51% of members. That means with 8 members, we can hold a meeting with 5.
Basically half plus one.
Right, half plus 1. So this was in order to be able to have proper meetings and not have some of the trouble that we've had in the last couple of years.
Anybody on the board have anything?
I think it's an excellent change.
Anybody there have anything in reference to this one?
Everything all good?
Yes.
All set.
We will close the public hearing, and we will move back and open up the public hearing to discuss the amended special amusement ordinance.
All right, I truly apologize for having the older draft available. This is the latest draft after some additional changes by the planning board. And just to point out those specific changes that Joel was speaking in reference to section 11, 11E, that stipulation was to require that separate dressing room if there's fewer than 6, and if there's more than 6 performers, it would be the separate dressing area and toilet facilities. So,
Performances, not performers, over a calendar year.
right, okay. And then, as he was also stating in that next section where it, G, which states the change in the distance, that was in reference to only exotic dancing and not all entertainment. The difference being entertainment before was anything that wasn't a radio. So if you had a paid entertainer strumming a guitar, you had to be a certain distance away from a church, let's say. So they felt that would be a reasonable change to make that only pertaining to the exotic dancing, and then to increase that distance. So I think that's the substantive changes that occurred after that previous draft. So again, I apologize for that.
Anybody on the board have anything?
No?
Anybody out there have anything?
Jerry Washburn, I own Sensory Family Fund and Team Beat Up Back Cabin. And on that ordinance itself, the only one I'd like to see you guys look into is, or change, is on D, no patron shall tip the entertainer, the dancer.
Which one are we gonna put? It's which one is it, Terry?
Section 11D.
Oh, D, okay.
D itself.
I thought he said B, okay. What is what would you like to see, any idea?
It's right there.
What are you looking for? That to be just completely erased, or what are you?
Yeah, I could, yeah. That's what they come, you know, for the tip money.
Directly pay.
If you don't mind, I'll just say that the planning board did discuss this in quite a large amount of detail and considered different options and decided to keep it in as it was written. And that was, so they had considered that, so decided to keep it there.
Okay. Anything further?
Well, the way to setting now, that would eliminate a tip jar, is that as well?
exactly?
I believe that the understanding when the planning board talked about it, it was where if there was actual, kind of an interaction between a dancer and a patron where when he was changing hands was the concern. If there was, I think there's probably methods where tips could be collected with kind of getting around that. I think that was the thinking. They were worried, and also based off the other regulations already in this, they have to be separated anyway. So if they came to solicit a tip, they would already be violating another part of the ordinance. So the idea was that they were concerned about any kind of interactions of changing hands of money or interactions between patrons and dancers in that sense. I think that as it's written, it says directly pay. So there's probably, I imagine there's probably a way to make a tip jar, as you say, possible in some capacity. So there's that.
Yeah, because if the way I read that, it basically outlaws tipping the dancer at all. Or am I reading it too strict?
Well, I think the second part of that says what you said. No dancer shall solicit any pay or gratuity. Sounds like no tips are allowed, period.
Yeah.
Jason?
Planning board also did say that they would leave this up to the selectmen to make any necessary revisions they found necessary out of this. And this was one of the concerns that came up, and that's why Terry's here. Yes, it's general business, but right at the current moment, it directly affects the show that happens there, so.
Anything else?
On the same, so let's be
Name, could
honest.
you state your name?
April, let's be honest, the whole point of like the Magic Mike show coming to Skowhegan is the point of tips. It is the point of the dancers coming down and the interaction of it. And if you stop and you don't make that possible, the only one losing out is the business. Because people will leave Skowhegan and go to a different town and do it. And I think that's kind of sad that something like this would stop them.
Well, I myself, I mean, as you said, the dancer has to be a specified distance away from the person, and
again, now, what's gonna happen is people are just, it's not, why would Terry bring that in? If the women can't have a good time, whatever, if they can't do the tipping that they do, why would they go to, they're not. They're gonna go to another place, another facility. The only one losing out is the business owner.
I just want to clarify, I don't know if you're aware or not, this is a current law, just for clarity.
State law?
Ordinance. Ordinance, local law, sorry, I use that interchangeably.
yeah.
Anything further? Terry?
I've owned the business for 10 years. This Magic Mike show has come here for 10 years. I just don't understand what has happened this year to change that. I mean, Betty's been through the shows. I mean,
No,
it's
I
like,
haven't.
well, not this one, but another one. We talked about it, but this is what it's about. I mean, if I can't do this, then the show can't come here, or they won't do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's about awareness. The law's been in place for many years, so when, even though it was happening, it was not happening legally.
The law Skowhegan?
Yes.
Okay.
The Skowhegan ordinance.
These amendments actually do restrict do actually loosen a lot of the existing regulations. obviously some might still be up for debate, but several of them have been changed in order to make it a little less restrictive for these kind of shows.
Because the last amendment was in 2004, so we were asked to make some changes, and this is to make it, like Joe said, less restrictive.
I guess I have a question. If people, when people come to our town meeting, and if they read this and decided they did want to eliminate, do they have to vote on the whole thing, or could they change it during our meeting?
I would say that those sort of changes can't be made on the floor. We could certainly get legal advice as to how much can be amended on the floor, but substantive changes like that typically cannot be made on the town meeting floor.
So it would be more, and either you vote for it or you don't vote for it.
Well, and if you don't vote to approve the amendment, what happens is the current ordinance that is more restrictive stands.
Stays in effect.
Right.
What about changing the ordinance?
Right, and that would be up to the selectmen and the planning board and the process.
Anything further?
Well, I myself, and I probably one of four, would like to see this struck because I think you have a tip jar and the dancers can't be close for more than 2 feet. And because the way it reads now, there are no tips.
So you're saying-
Joel, is there any reason why having that 2-foot section in there, why?
We did discuss this, and it came up that there was a difference between the dancer should not dance closer than 10 feet from a patron, but that doesn't restrict them from going around before or after not dancing, but
Okay.
but soliciting tips like after the dance when they're not dancing. So that was why the planning board said they wanted to keep it in, and the planning board just felt that the planning board were not comfortable with the idea of money changing hands and what potentially they thought that was a problem with that in terms of solicitation of money from dancers to patrons.
So tips are allowed?
There's not, I mean, my general interpretation is that they're not completely prohibited, but they're not, the way that they can't be given directly, dancer to patron, and the dancer cannot directly solicit. So.
Gray area.
I mean, if we want to either eliminate that or tighten it up in the other direction, that's possible.
Jason?
Obviously, just from this discussion, as much of the 8 months that we spent working on this, what your interpretation is and what Joel's interpretation is, what our interpretation is completely different. So we're trying to streamline it so everybody's on the same page. So the best option would be to eliminate that. But I think the bigger picture is looking at the economic impact. So looking at this show coming into town, when you have the dancers come into town and you fill the motels, you have them go and eat at the local restaurants, it's a much bigger impact than just the show that is coming to town. So that's one of the concepts that you have to think about long term. So.
But I'm gonna play devil's advocate on what you're saying. And like they said, if this gets voted down, then it goes back to a more restrictive ordinance, and then you guys are shot out of the water anyway. So if the voters, because the bottom line, this comes down to the voters, if the voters decide they don't want that, because they don't want that in this town, whatever, that's their choice, then it goes back to a more restrictive which we were trying to loosen the reins on this to begin with. So, I mean, that's a risk you'd be taking.
I get it.
Bev, did you have something?
I was gonna, Bev Fitzsimmons, I was gonna say pretty much what Jason did. Why can't you just eliminate that? Section D.
We could.
We can if someone wants to make the motion.
Yeah, because if you could have a tip jar there, then that would work, right?
I wouldn't go to that show.
You wouldn't?
No.
This
Then
show
you have to
goes
get rid of
everywhere,
the tech.
bang, all grew up, and then they come to me.
Dancing.
What's the board's pleasure? Actually, we can't do anything yet anyway. Is there anything else? Bev?
I just wanted to add that they've been having these shows for years. I don't know about Terry, but I remember when the Midtown or whatever it was called, they used to have them all the time. And to my knowledge, I've never known of the police department being called in because of the crowd being too overjoyed, I think. It will economically affect the town and the businesses.
Well, I can tell you, yes, we have in the past, so.
Okay.
But anyhow,
Yes, and I should say, when Terry said, I've been there, I've never been there, but probably like 35 years ago, I did go to one in Waterville.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so, I understand
35.
younger ladies wanting to go, and I do, I wish we could work something out.
What's your feelings on eliminating this section?
Well, I think Terry felt like it's not gonna make any difference.
Well, no, yes, it will, if you eliminate D.
Well, I thought it'd make a substantial difference.
I think Terry thinks so, but April doesn't.
No. What does April know?
does anybody else have anything else?
Pam Powers from Bigelow Brewing. So my question is, if we change this, and I don't see anything wrong with that, but if we change that and the voters decide that they don't want that, that's going to affect G. Is that correct?
Yes.
Where you can't sell, you have to be a certain distance away from a church or school. So,
If you have a paid entertainer strumming a guitar, yes. At an establishment with liquor, yes. With a liquor license.
that would be important.
Yes, it will.
That would be important.
I mean, I
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but what I do disagree with is the fact that it affects everything that we're trying to change in this ordinance. And that can affect businesses in Skowhegan also in a big way.
My name's George White. How about, could you just eliminate the first portion of D, no patron shall directly give gratuities to a dancer? Because what we were just told is, the rule for no dancer shall dance closer than 10 feet. So once they come off stage, then they could give tips to the dancers at that point, wouldn't be breaking any law. And it would just be that the dancers couldn't solicit from the patrons.
well, if they're coming off stage, they're gonna be
That's the purpose.
probably dancing and soliciting for tips, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, if they just came off stage, the patron could give them a tip then, instead of giving it to them while they're on stage. And the way I see it, that would be a win-win for both people.
D doesn't limit to only stage though, does it?
No.
Yeah, that's why we're talking about eliminating D.
Yes, that's why,
Right. And this was the same struggle that happened with the planning board. The planning board talked about this for a very long time. Jason was here for those conversations. I don't know that you had a problem at that time, but the conversation that occurred over and over again was the interaction between the patrons and the dancers. So that was the concern of the planning board, which is why they left it in there. So as to how the Board of Selectmen feels, that may be different.
Is there anything else out there? So I'm gonna close, so I am gonna close the public hearing. Now, what is the board's pleasure? I guess I mean, you know, and unfortunately, and I don't want to get into, I mean, I don't obviously want to hurt any business in town, and obviously we have to have ordinances to keep people on the straight and narrow, I guess, I don't know. And, you know, but I also want to get into the point where we're doing ordinances to specifically for one particular business. I don't want to get into that either. But I don't want to hurt any business either, so. And I know the planning board, I mean, they looked at this over and over and over. And this is what they come up with. So it's kind of where I stand at it.
I don't know, I wouldn't have a problem with eliminating D, but
I
Do I hear a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we eliminate D.
I'll second that and we can vote.
Okay, we have a first and second to eliminate D. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Go ahead. Whatever.
This is hard.
They don't, I guess people don't have to go if they don't want to go.
Yeah.
So be it.
So be it. And now we'll open up the public hearing to discuss the designation of the municipal affordable housing tax increment financing district to be known as KV Camp Housing TIF Project and the adoption of a development program.
There is a sign-up sheet that has gone around. Is everybody signed in? Thank you very much.
Not me.
Oh, you guys later.
Yeah.
This project actually did go through the special town meeting, but the Maine State Housing, which is the governing agency for housing TIF, did not like the actual warrant article that we used, so we are bringing it back through after the attorneys have reworked it and stuff. Also, Dave is here from KV Cap. Dave, you want to introduce yourself? And
I'm Dave Pelton, Director of Real Estate Development with KV Cap.
So what we're looking at doing is KV Cap has their facility on Mary Street off of Norwood Ave. It's a 3-story brick structure. We're looking, and right now that structure is tax exempt. They pay no taxes on that facility at all. To go through this project, they will be converting it to a for-profit facility, and they will be looking at building another facility to one side of this facility here. There will be 16 units in the existing facility and 24 units in the new facility that they're looking to do. There will be 40 units in total 35 will be affordable rents, and 5 will be market rate rents for them. The estimated value for the project is $8.5 million. It is partially funded by a federal low-income housing tax credit program. And we're looking at doing a 75% tip, where 25% of the valuation will be, goes to general fund. It is not protected. So we'll actually be bringing in 25% of the taxes, which is obviously above the 0% that we're receiving now. In doing that, we also have some tax shifts which are in our benefit. Over 20 years, we'll be looking at approximately $242,000 of savings. Municipal revenue sharing will be up about $237 million, and will reduce county tax by about just under $70,000. So with a total tax shift for $549,797 over the life of that project. We're going to be looking at some 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, and they again will have to meet what Maine State Housing has for the rents and stuff at that point based on their incomes. And I believe I did say it is for 20 years and stuff. So any questions?
Yes. I just didn't, I missed this. Is
No, no.
this low-income housing or elderly housing?
This is low income, but it can also have elderly, but Dave, I'd like to.
It's everybody. It's elderly and elderly.
Because I just hate the thought of building another low-income housing in Skowhegan.
The problem is.
Elderly is one thing.
No, I agree. We need a lot more elderly and stuff.
We really do.
But there is also still a big need for affordable housing too. So Dave, you may want to get into that. You did do a study of this whole area for that.
Yes, we did do a study. It isn't low income percentage.
No. It's affordable housing.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Okay.
It isn't what we think of as Section 8 type of housing. That isn't it.
So, as I say, they did have a research outfit go and do a complete study for this whole area. They looked at all the Skowhegan rentals. They did look at some Waterville and some others in their area, and showing that there is a fairly substantial need for affordable housing in the area. We do have a lot of businesses that are applying for worker housing. Backyard Farms is actually renting some of the facilities at KBCC for some of their housing and stuff. So it's definitely a need out there. People are trying to get creative and trying to find new type of housing and stuff. But that's pretty much it. I'd like to take any other questions. And Dave, would you like to have anything?
You covered it very well, but happy to answer questions.
I thought it was really good the last time we heard. I think maybe that you had explained it, Dave, about affordable housing is they take an average of what housing is, and so the rents have to be affordable, so they're less than the average rent.
Right, so it's pretty much dictated by Maine State Housing. And what they look at the whole state, they look at the Skowhegan area, and they have median incomes for every county and every city and every town. They have median housing costs. And so when Jeff mentioned 35% of the apartments will be affordable, they have to be below the market rate. So, and it's Maine Housing has a formula that they use, but it's around 30% lower than market rate. So it isn't low end, but it's below what the market rate would be.
Yeah, and I thought last time, we heard figures like, if the average is like 1,100 a month for a 3-bedroom, then the affordable would probably be like 800 or 850 a
Right.
month. It's that sort of affordable housing.
Right, yeah.
Thank you.
But it's not subsidized.
No.
Only to the point that the building is subsidized with low-interest loans, but the housing itself is not subsidized to the people that rent them. Is that correct?
That's correct. The subsidy essentially comes on the development side up front, and then for the next, it's 49 years that it has to stay this way, according to the main housing rules. So for the next 49 years, it's just whatever the numbers are that main housing says is affordable.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? You have something, Jason?
No, I was just gonna say, so, I mean, we're working hard to attract workers to the area, and Jeff mentioned Backyard Farms. Yeah, they're at Goodwill Hinckley campus, so they're paying for buses to take them down there and live, and they go back. Whereas we could try and work some of those angles with this potential development where they're stopping, they're sleeping, they're staying in Skowhegan and spending money in our stores versus when you get to Goodwill, there's nothing. I mean, there's that little convenience store out on 201, but that's about it. And there's multiple projects that we're all continue to work on, bring more people, more employers and employees to the area. So I think something like this would be beneficial because it's not I need Section 8 or I got $2,000 a month in student loan debt and I can't afford a place to live to come work in Skowhegan. I can get something affordable.
Anything further? Good. So we'll close public hearing. Move on to the consent agenda.
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
We have first and second, further discussion. All in favor? Passes 4-0. Regular agenda, discussion decision to approve the town meeting warrant for the June 10th, 2019 town meeting.
So move. Second.
First and second, further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Passes 4-0. Discussion decision to approve the application for parades and processions to allow the Skowhegan Regional Chamber of Commerce to hold the Memorial Day Parade on May 27, 2019 at 10 a.m.
So move. Second.
First and second, any further discussion? All those in favor? Passes 4-0. Discussion decision to approve the application for parades and processions to allow the Skowhegan Regional Chamber of Commerce to hold Moonlight Madness on August 1st, 2019, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. 5 a.m., let's go. Marathon it, let's go.
I think Roger did it, I'll second it.
We have first and second, any further discussion? All in favor? Passes 4-0. Discussion decision to approve application for parades and processions to allow Kerry Miller to hold a 5K race/walk in remembrance of Rosa McGrail on September 15th, 2019 at 10 a.m.
So move.
Second.
First and second, further discussion? All in favor? Passes 4-0. Discussion decision to approve application for parades and processions to allow Main Street, Skowhegan to hold the Skowhegan Craft Brew Festival downtown on August 31st, 2019. So moved.
Second.
We have first and second, further discussion? All in favor? Passes 4-0. Discussion decision to approve application for parades and processions to allow Main Street, Skowhegan to hold the agriculture event in the municipal parking lot on June 15th, 2019. So moved.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? All in favor? Passes 4-0. Discussion decision to approve the application for license for Incorporated Civic Organization to allow Main Street, Skowhegan to serve alcohol at the agricultural event on June 15th.
So moved. Second.
First and second. All in favor?
Couple events.
Discussion decision to waive the bid process and allow Greg Bill to join with Winslow for street painting with Lucas Painting and expend an amount not to exceed $24,689.68 from the Highway Department Contract Services Account Street Painting Designation.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Discussion decision to expend an amount not to exceed $1,502.58 from the Police Department Reserve Account Protective Vest Designation to purchase body armor for officers Burns and Buzzell.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? All those in favor? Passes 4-0. Discussion decision to accept the Burn JAG grant in the amount of $7,351 to purchase WatchGuard body cameras, a laptop for a patrol vehicle, and equipment for body armor body gear.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Passes 4-0. Discussion decision to approve the agreements between the Town of Skowhegan, Cal Ripken Baseball League, and Skowhegan Area High School for use of the Memorial Field Complex and Carl Wright Baseball Complex for the 2019 season.
So moved. Second.
First and second, any further discussion?
Any changes to this over last year, Denise?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Anything through? All in favor?
Unscripted question. Do you want us to continue to bring this to the board every year if there are no changes? We made a couple of changes in the last few years.
Right, that's why I was wondering if we could.
We've picked up some of the expenses that we didn't use to, but just curious if you want us to continue to bring this to.
I think we should continue. We do that with other things,
Yes.
because it's easy enough just to say no changes.
Yep.
And then we're kind
And
of
something
aware
may
of that.
come- And something new may come up between,
Yeah.
because I meet with the presidents of their group, so they may have something that we may work on and change.
Yeah.
so.
Right.
Yeah, I was just curious because there were years that we didn't, so I just want to make sure we were all on the same page.
I think
Sounds
it's
great.
better.
Sounds good.
Discussion decision to install 3 stop signs at the intersection of Greenwood Ave, Cleveland Street, and Kirby Lane.
So move.
Second.
We have a first and second, and yes, we have discussion. I guess I was, like I stated last time, I'm not for this. I don't see the purpose in it. To me, it's not an intersection, it's a curve. But, and I don't see the purpose of this, and I guess, I also would like to state if the speed is an issue, we did purchase speed tables, for that street, and we spent a great amount of money, so let's use them and put one back if we need to. Betty?
I think it's a good idea to have these stop signs. They're on the whole rest of the street, and just because I wanted to see, well, how would this be? When there wasn't too much traffic around, I stopped, and I go through there a lot. So several times I pretended there were stop signs there, and I really think it's a good idea. I don't know if anybody else tried it to see, but it's a good way to go around that curve. There's going to be more traffic coming out the other end, so it will be a 3-way intersection, and I think it's a good idea.
Roger?
Our last meeting, I was ready to plant stop signs. But I did go up and take a look, sat there for a while, and watched the whole procession of vehicles go through, and I've changed my mind. To me, it looks like a curve. It's not a corner.
Okay.
I watched a lot of cars go through, and nobody seemed to be going over the limit. They were at the limit or under. Everybody seemed to be really careful about going around the curve. I'm all in favor of putting a stop sign at Kirby Street, or Kirby Lane, or whatever you call it there. But I don't think stop signs are the answer there. I think maybe some other signage, maybe a curve sign or a yield sign or something in that fashion would be better than a stop sign. So I've changed my position on it.
Jim, I talked to 37 people.
Well, on vacation.
And I had one former select person who was adamantly opposed to it, even more so than Paul. I had one former select person who said they thought it was an excellent idea. And I had two who said, I don't go through there very often, it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference to me. And the preponderance of the people, 57.5%, were in favor of it. So based on the constituents that I talked to, I'm going to have to vote yes. Greg?
So, I just wanted to let you know, first of all, for people in the area, it's not an issue because they're used to going around the corner. But if you're not from the area, and I definitely am up there a lot, and I see people with out-of-state plates, you know what? They stop. When they get to the end of Cleveland, at Greenwood, they stop. The other thing is if you're coming up Greenwood, and now that we're going to have a road that's going to go straight through to the park, I think technically you don't have to stop to go straight through. And so if I'm from Massachusetts, I come through Kirby's Lane from Way Street, I'm going down Dawson, I'm going down Greenwood Avenue, and there's nothing there to really let me know that I have to stop because I'm technically on the right of way because I'm going straight through. So just in the safety aspect of this is why I think we really should put up these stop signs. And it's really not a significant inconvenience to anybody, but it could save lives. That's all I have to say.
Then put a stop sign at the end of Kirby Lane if you think they're gonna come through. It's
Yeah.
no different than going up Stewart Hill and coming out the dump. Same idea.
That's a good sign.
Transfer station.
Transfer station. That's where my trash goes, is the dump.
That's on radio, that's Randy's heart going up.
Sorry, Randy, I didn't mean to offend you, all right.
Your mother wants to sell.
Judy York, and I too went after the meeting up to Greenwood Avenue and Cleveland Street and stopped. There was no traffic, so it was okay for me to stop. And I looked at the road and I started to go around and I'm like, this is a curve. If you're going to put a stop sign on both of those roads, you need to reconstruct that corner because it curves. It is not a square as in other streets. So I do not want to see stop signs there. There have been no accidents, at least that's what the chief said last time. So there hasn't been a problem. If it becomes a problem, then revisit it. But right now, I don't see the need to put stop signs.
Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll go to vote. All in favor? All opposed? 2-2. Thank you all. Fails.
Do you need a vote for a stop sign at Kirby Lane in order to put it in the ordinance?
Yes, you do. Any stop signs installed in the town of Skowhegan has to be approved by the select.
So I didn't know if perhaps you would want to consider that at this time.
So move.
Second.
We have a first and second to place a stop sign at the end of Kirby Lane. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Passes. Discussion decision to allow Randy Gray to sell up to 800 yards of unscreened compost.
So move.
Second?
We have a first and second. Any further discussion?
I have a question. What are we gonna get for this?
$2 per yard.
$2 a yard?
We've sold it for less before.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you honestly, it's more than I was expecting for it this year. It's unscreened, so it's not.
Oh, it's unscreened?
It's unscreened.
Oh, okay, okay, sure.
Yeah.
$2 a yard.
That's actually, I think, a good deal.
So it's like anybody who comes along can, I mean, like a contractor or somebody that comes along
We
can buy?
sold it, I actually.
Oh, you already
sold
sold it?
it. That's why I'm bringing it forward. They approached me, middle of last week when I put this memo together.
Oh.
And I talked to Christine about it right as quick as I could and got this out to you folks. So I've been asked about it many years. We don't always want to sell it because it's such a good program to pass out to our taxpayers. That should always be a priority. But I checked with Greg, we have plenty on site.
So how do we deal with if someone decides they want 800 yards of this? So we sell it to them, and then all of a sudden somebody goes in behind them and say, well, I want to buy some of that. And you gonna tell them no?
I would for this year, for sure, but that's up to you folks, honestly. They approached me, I thought I should bring it to you people. I think personally it's a good deal. It allows us to clean add up in one day. We can reload it. I mean, this is not a normal year on top of it. It's been so wet. It hasn't been a great year for composting. And so,
Who's loading
not
it?
only be composting right now as far as screening it, but, you know, it's wet. It doesn't go through the screening well when it's saturated.
Who's loading it?
We would, just like we've done in the past. We've sold it 2 other times. We've always loaded it.
Isn't that actually in the policy that we have to load it anyway?
I believe so.
I think it is, so
Yeah. Because we've done this a couple times in the
Done
past.
it 2 other times.
When we have an overabundance,
Right.
right?
Anything further? All those in favor? Even though I'm leery about if someone else decides they want it, we don't know after we've sold it, but. Discussion decision to accept a donation of 10 yards of mulch and labor from York's Lawn Care to mulch the traffic triangles on Route 201 and Water Street.
So moved.
Second?
First and second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? I'll go in favor.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
If you need help, let us know. No, good.
Taxpayers have been good to me.
Thanks for putting it out.
Treasurer's warrants to be approved, the amount of $506,707.54.
So moved.
Second?
We have first and second. For discussion, all's in favor? Any other business?
I think we've had adequate, thank you.
Okay. Any unfinished business?
Any more on the charging station?
Jeff gave an update. We're meeting with Carrie from KB Cog tomorrow. We both listened in on a webinar, well, all of us listened in on a webinar. And we're going to be, after we meet, we're going to be putting together a proposal for the TIF committee for TIF funds for the match portion, and we'll bring it to you when we're ready to go.
Excellent.
I'm ready to go.
Hi.
And we will sign documents and adjourn the meeting.